Oh, snap! Snap!
The world is finally waking up to the crap that's baked into and sprayed on kibble dog food. No longer can commercial pet food manufacturers fool us with pretty pictures and false promises. This is the raw dog food truth. The view and opinions expressed on this podcast are not intended to replace medical advice. Before starting any raw diet, do research, ask lots of questions, and consult your vet.
Well, hello, Raw Feeders. I'm Dee Dee Mercer-Moffat, CEO of Raw Dog Food and Company. We're your health Wait, what? We're your pet's house. Did I say we're your hell's pet?
I think you were going there. Yes.
Yeah. It's a Monday, Andi. How are you?
It is Monday morning. I'm doing well today.
I love your hat.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
super cute.
I tried to be cute today.
Well, you're always cute.
Mm.
But super cute, I would say, today with your hat on.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, so we had a great cancer webinar last week. That was great. And so, Andi, it's time for us to get some webinars going. And so when you're ready, we're
Okay.
gonna do it. We're gonna do
All
it.
right. I'm working on it.
We got so
Actually,
many things going on. We're trying to revamp our website. We're revamping the back
I'm in the middle
end.
of that too.
It's when you have it's going to be a 5-month process, I think, for us though.
For you, yeah.
It's a
that's
big,
not,
giant, painful thing.
you have a big giant website. And I don't think people realize unless they have a website, it's never done.
No,
It's an organic creature of your business that is constantly being revised and changed and revamped. And what about this? And it's like, wow, it's amazing.
well, the big thing is that people don't read. People do not read. So it's like, why don't I just do everything in video format, right? Because people are not going to read. I mean, I can send out a reminder, and literally what they get from a reminder is nothing like what I said. Nothing like what I said. And so even my nephew, I sent something to him.
Family might be the worst. Just saying.
Yeah. And it was in the box, and I was like, yeah, that's not what that meant at all. So anyway, when we look at the website, people get really overwhelmed. They're like, you are the Mexican menu of dog food. You have too many options.
Yes.
So I think what I got to do is make it to where it's like, okay, start here and watch this 3-minute video. Watch this one, because people aren't going to read. People aren't going to read.
That's a great idea. And then there's the time on your end to get all that done.
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
And you know what? Look, when you have a system that has all these different pickup locations, everything that we have, one app goes down, everything is
chain reaction.
Is a chain reaction. So anyway, it's the joys. I still would rather work for myself than anyone else.
Oh yes,
So-
I'm completely. I'm unhireable. Like there's no way I could work for anybody else
Well,
at
you've
this
been
point.
working for yourself for how many years?
Well, 20, or more, honestly. I mean, I always claim I never had a real job. The only time I actually worked for anybody was I waited tables in chiropractic school.
I
That was
loved
it.
waiting tables.
I loved it. Oh my God, I had so much fun.
Yeah.
But even prior to that, I babysat. I had 50 families. I was running a business before I knew I was running a business. And so
Nice.
I've never really I never did retail. I never sat there for 8 hours. I loved the tables because you got in, you got it done. And if no one showed up, you went home. Like it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved waiting tables. That was one of my most fun jobs. So I have a question today, and I never prep you for these shows, but I want to talk about this because this happens a lot. A dog gets hit by a car.
Yes.
Okay. A dog gets hit by a car. And I want to talk about how do we put that dog back together? And I know that that's a loaded question because you don't have that. Well, did it drag him down the street? Did it break its pelvis?
What's fractured? Yes.
Right. But can we talk about, I'm sure that you have seen dogs that have been hit by cars in your line of work. So
let's go with the dog that got bumped by a car, a little scraped up, Maybe the dog that fell out of the car window. I've had a couple of those somewhat recently, tumbled, little roughed up, goes to the vet, and the vet says they're fine. That is not true, folks. There is nothing broken. There is no internal bleeding. Like, that is what they are looking for. Now, are there subluxations? Are there pelvic rotations? Are there, jammed toes and shoulders and all of that? That is chiropractic? Absolutely. So if that happens and you get they're fine from them, that means nothing's fractured. That means you get them in. If there's a lot of bruising, maybe we wait a little bit for that to heal up, or I work around it. There's a big scar or whatever, a big wound that they had to sew up. Okay, we can work around that. But I talk about this and I talk about it. The longer you wait, the harder it is for me to get and the longer it's going to take for me to get your animal back to where they were. But the all fine is they were looking for the big, massive, problematic things. And yes, great. There is no fractures, no internal bleedings, their organs are good, whatever they did to check all that. Awesome. Then call your animal chiropractor. Do not pass go.
If you can, because you freaked me out when you said that not some people can't be chiropractors in some states. They have to be licensed veterinary chiropractors.
Or they have to work under a veterinarian. It can be very difficult in other states. Yes.
That is so weird. I'm sorry. That's so strange to me. I can't even understand why you wouldn't have freedom of choice in that. Obviously I understand why we don't have freedom of choice in a lot of things. Or it seems that we don't. Right. But that's a great idea. So yeah, if you relate it to a human who like falls down, right? Let's just say you trip on a curb, right? You could throw your back out. You could do, my mom has, worked in the yard forever, and she's 80 and still, going strong. She'll pick up a pot, and now she's got to go get adjusted because something happened. Well, if a dog gets hit by a car and they're saying, oh, they're fine. Right. There's so much more to that.
Yeah. I had a client many, many years ago now when I was actually working at a Dr. J6 office many years ago. I think it was a burner mix of sorts. I don't know. I don't remember. It was a pretty big dog. And about the third or fourth visit, I'm like, we're making little progress, but we're not making a lot of progress. And I'm like, okay, what is going on here? Like, what else has happened to this dog? And it's, remind you, 3-4 visits in. Oh, he was hit by a car last year. I love that. I love what it takes so many appointments to get to something that happened that they probably forgot about it because they went to the vet and the next thing out of their mouth was, oh, they said he was fine. His pelvis was so rotated, and because it had been there for the next following year, then he was getting limping, he was getting a pain down that leg, we were having trouble up front. It just continues to grow as an issue. So it took a few more appointments and we got him back to where, back to A-okay. But I'm like, this should be, if we just started limping a week ago, which was probably the history, I don't remember all the details, this should be clearing up. We should be seeing so much more progress, but it was that missing piece of the history that I'm like, oh. So we do have a chronic issue that we're addressing. We have chronic muscle imbalance that we are addressing. So it took a few more visits, but we got there. It all made sense then. So I get that a lot. About that same period, little black lab. Oh, she was cute. And she just sat there. She was just delightful. And same thing. I'm like, what's going on? Why are we limping so bad? And of course, Dad wants her tip-top shape to go hunting in 2 weeks flat, right? Because people wait to the last minute all the time. And I'm like, well, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. And about the third, fourth visit, I'm like, what is this scar here on her front? She had run full bore. You know how you tie your trees down at those ropes on an angle, right? Yeah, she went full bore into that and clotheslined herself. Yeah.
Oh, ow.
Yeah. And went to the vet. oh, she's fine. Nothing's fractured, nothing's torn, nothing. But she did not go hunting that season. We just could not get her back to where she needed to be for that. But she did go hunting the next season. Or the next time, whatever it was. And I don't know, I'm assuming she did fine because we got her fixed up and I never saw her again. But yes, to answer your question, either hit by car or any kind of trauma, and you go in, which most likely you should go in. You should rule out all those big, ugly things. Absolutely. But they're not fine after something like that. There is still work to be done, chiropractic work.
So another thing that happens with dogs that I see, certainly I've seen it with Asta. This was one of the injuries that she sustained, many years ago, was jumping out of the back seat, just jumping out of the back seat onto the ground.
Yeah.
And that wrist, she did something to it. And I mean, think about how many dogs do that.
Yep.
Many times on a daily basis. What's going on right there with that wrist?
In her case, at this point, it is broken down, right? We have ligament laxity and all that. We can see that in her gait. Is that the wrist opposite to the leg in the back, the injured?
I think so.
It usually is. I mean,
Yeah.
90% of the time you're going to get a cross body pattern. So because that rear leg has an injury, because she tore the ACL, right? A
Yeah.
CCL.
Yep.
Yeah. And the body healed that up, but it's still not what I like to call God made anymore, right? It's a
Mhm.
little more compromised. Her gait's going to be a little bit off. And so there's more weight generally goes to the cross body, so that front leg. It also depends on if your dog is right pawed or left pawed.
What? They have a
Yes.
right paw or
Yes.
left paw? Okay,
Yes.
so can you tell by the way? All right. So can you tell by the way, like Lozzie? Okay, so every day she comes to the side of the bed and she's like, "Hello, it is time for you to get up." And she lifts that paw and puts it on my, body.
Face.
Yeah. Is that how you tell if you're right pawed?
That's one
or
of the
left pawed?
ways. Absolutely. Some dogs you can't tell. They're very back and forth. Sometimes you need to get video and slow it down. I can usually tell by the muscle mass and the patterns that are going on in your dog. Just like we are dominantly right-handed people and we have more muscle mass and more tightness on that right shoulder, right arm, right side of the neck, the dog will too. And my observation over the last 20 years, it's about the same percentage as us. Every once in a while, I'll find a left paw dog. And then the right rear would be the weakest limb. In our right paw dogs, it's the left rear leg that becomes the weakest of all four limbs due to age and aging. And I don't know why. I mean, even separate from other injuries, that left rear leg is usually one that probably is not working as much as the other three, and it just gets a little weaker.
And that's why you like your fit paws, right? That's why
Yes.
you like your exercise
Yeah,
you talk
proprioceptive
about.
exercises. Yeah.
That you talk about on your website.
Mhm.
So the dog that is left pawed, do you find anything different about a left pawed dog? About their personality, their body, anything? Is there any
That's a great
cool that we
question.
find?
I have not noticed that, but I wonder if I lived with one. Mine are all right pod, so.
All right.
don't
So
know.
for our listeners, is there a way that they can
It's
determine
usu-
whether they got a right or a lefty, a righty or a lefty?
If they really pay attention to how they're coming out of the car, what's the foot that hits the ground first? That's generally it. They're going to have a paw that they want to smack in the face with first. They're going to have a paw that they offer and giving shake first. A lot of dogs will only want to like spin to one side. That's their dominant side. They go towards the dominant side. If you are working on spin and turn, and you should always go the other way too, even to the non-dominant side, because we want to build that side up too. Maybe you'd even do an extra one to the non-dominant side because it rewires the brain. Sometimes you have these little dogs that when they greet you, all they do is spin. Have you met them?
Yes.
Yes. And they usually only go to one way. And they're going to wire their brain really, really hard to that direction. You really need to work on going the other direction on a daily basis and even out that nervous system for them. Because that's a lot of it, I think, is a little, especially those little things. It's a little of an OCD, a little bit of a wind up type thing in the nervous system. So you really want to work hard with those dogs going the other way.
So a good exercise for any dog is to have them spin or circle.
Yep.
Would you say spin, or are you saying just
whatever term you want to use? Some use spin to mean go right. Some say turn to go left. Like you can put each side on a different term, whatever works for you. But cue you like.
But I mean, does it have to be a tight spin, or can it be a wide circled spin? Does it matter?
Want to get it as tight as possible.
Okay.
And that would be really good for the pet owner. Oh, they do a really wide one when we go this way, but they can do a tight one this way. Is that in the brain or is that in the muscles in the body? Like, why can't we get that tight? Or, hey, your dog's been doing these tight circles left, tight circles right. We're doing great. And then one day we're not going left. You call the chiropractor. It's usually in the neck and something needs to be handled before it becomes a big issue. It's those little things that if you jump on it and get it taken care of, the likelihood of getting to the big limping, lameness, pain meds, a trip to the emergency room in the middle of the night because they're not sleeping goes down tremendously.
I know that I've only been bringing Asta to see you, but I wonder if I shouldn't start Lassie over there because, Lassie is a Schutzhund trained dog.
She's a hardworking girl.
Hardworking girl. And when they're in training, like it or not, folks, they have pinch collars on and they are corrected, right? Now, these trainers know how to correct correctly, meaning they're not dragging the dog, down the street.
Not missing the cues. They're accurate.
Right. Yeah. However, I would have to think that they would still benefit from getting an adjustment. And you think about what they do in Schutzhund, where part of it is they have to go pick up a 5-pound wooden dumbbell, bring it back. Another one is they have to jump over.
Don't they have to jump with it too?
Yes, they have to jump over, a little fence there type thing, with it in their mouth. Right. Again, we're back to the teeth where you talk about readjusting that. And then they're doing bite work. And when they do bite work and they are going full bore at the guy in the bite suit, they are judged on how far that mouth comes into the bite. So if there's any space between that back jaw, lip area and that bite work, that's a deduction. That bite has to come all the way.
I did not know that. I knew they were going all the way, and that force and that impact is hitting those temporomandibular joints, those TMJs. And there's so much proprioception there. Those are linked into all the muscles of mastication, all the muscles that allow for chewing, which links up into the atlas, occiput, into the base of the skull. All of that. And there's so much proprioception there. When that actually gets inflamed or tight or painful or, let's say subluxated, you can actually see weakness in the rear because of the way the neurology is. And if you get high enough into the head, into the upper cervical, into that cord, you actually impact the neurology in the front and the rear. Isn't that fascinating?
It is fascinating.
Fascinating. So maybe, that German Shepherd that's a little extra wobbly in the rear actually really needs, that's been working and doing all of this, needs an adjustment of the head and neck and that TMJ. Now, on the flip side, these dogs have worked up to this. There's been training, there's been building muscle. They do this on a regular basis, as we're not out there on weekend warriors. So they're built for this too. So they should be able to handle a lot of it too.
Yeah, it's not as if they just, it's funny because I watch how they start the puppies out, right? So they just have like a leather, almost like a chamois a leather chamois, and
Okay.
they're playing with the puppy and they're teaching them these basics, these fundamental basics. But when you get up into this competition level of getting a 1, a 2, or even the 3s, I mean, it's amazing. When they hit that person who's doing the bite work, they actually spin that person around and that dog goes flying. So they're holding on to that bite sleeve with their mouth. Now, people will say, well, why do you train dogs like this? Well, number one, they love it.
I was gonna say, why not?
Yeah, and well, the dogs love it. I mean,
They do.
it's like
If
what are
you
they?
have a dog that loves it,
Yeah.
right? So you have to start them out young and see. But if you have a dog that loves it, come on, that's part of being a dog.
Yeah, I mean, look, they love the bite work. They love the bite and hold because that's really what they're created to do. But I will say there was a poodle, a
Yes.
standard poodle that was doing that. I was like, a standard poodle doing bite work on the bite sleeve?
I've always said this for years. So my last standard, who was in his prime 80 pounds, he was massive. And I always joked if I had known about Schutzen earlier, and he would have loved it. He would have looked at me and went, really? I can bite them? Because he was such a good dog. And he went after a couple people that it was very appropriate to go after, protecting me.
Nice.
He was such a cool, stable, confident dog that damn, he would have loved it. He would have loved to get in there and done all that. I found it and started working with clients that were doing it, and he was already like 6 or 7. And so I just didn't do it, but oh God, he would have loved it. And I know poodles do it. I've had dog trainers tell me that if they wanted an undercovered dog, protection dog, you get a standard poodle.
Well, number one, they're so smart. Why do you think that poodles are so smart? Are they really smarter, or do we just think they are? They sure do seem like they are to me.
I don't know. They have these eyeballs on them that are just a little different than all the other dogs. My last one was bloody brilliant. This one is so smart. He plays dumb, which is hysterical. But I think the thing with poodles is, for the most part, they really, really also care that you're happy with what they're choosing to do. So they don't tend to get in trouble with their smarts. I've heard some, there's always outliers on that, but the couple I've had, and I just adore them. I just adore the breed. I never knew I'd grow up and be a standard poodle person. It was just not on my radar.
It sounds like the poodles are codependent. I want you to be happy with everything I do.
Oh, these boy poodles, it's ridiculous. Like, oh my God, ridiculous, codependent on well, at least me. So I create that, right? But the boy poodles, oh my God, they're mama's boys like you wouldn't believe.
That's awesome. I had a little, I've had poodles in my day, little ones, not big ones. I think the standards, the giants are gorgeous and cool. Very cool. We're going to possibly be flying over to Germany. Did I say that already?
Yeah, you were saying that.
We're still waiting for the, so maybe 5 months out. So we'll see how that goes. And people are like, well, why are you going to Germany? Let me say, Germany, everybody that has a German Shepherd over there, they do Schutzen, right? It's just like the normal thing. I mean, it's like on every corner.
In the DNA.
Yeah. And these dogs are really stable-minded. They come from a great lineage. I think in these other countries, they maybe don't poison their dogs as much as we do over here.
That's my understanding too.
Yeah. And so, and Andi, it's a great way for me to get a vacation without saying I'm getting a vacation.
We only do this stuff around our dogs, right? The only time we take a break is to do more dog stuff.
Well, I think that Rick could be like, yeah, let's, we can do that because that's what he wants to do. He wants to go over and, our trainer and also Lazzie's sister's mom is also getting a puppy from Germany. So, when one does it, everybody does it.
Yes.
And,
that's how it goes.
But I'm like, well, that's very cool, babe. Yes, let's go over there a week early.
Absolutely.
I haven't been to Germany since I was 16. So
I've never been.
No.
This got me thinking. I'm like, maybe my next standard, now that I know you and Rick, I know where to get them into Schutzen.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's amazing work. If you listeners have never seen Schutzen, I can't spell it, but it's something like Schutshund,
Barely say it.
something like that.
Yes.
Schutzen. But if you look at German Shepherd protection training or obedience training, now protection is a different thing, right?
It is
So
a
you
little
can
different.
you
Yeah.
can train dogs to guard your truck or your car. You can train them to, who was telling me the other day that someone was training for their little kids, right? So they had a dog around the young children. The trainer came in and was doing good person, bad person, and training the dog to recognize, to protect the children.
Very cool.
Which I thought was very cool, because sometimes I say, all right, so training for like agility, I mean, that's fun. I think it's great for the dogs. But in what we do in Schutzen, I'm like, well, what is the point? Right? Sometimes it's like, what is the point to guard the house, guard the car, protect us when some stranger danger comes along? So there's all these different kind of side trainings that you can do. Schutzen is stability of mind, bite work, tracking, things that the dogs like.
Yeah.
But I think it would be very cool. And you have to be super responsible when you have a dog that you have trained to protect you.
Yeah.
Right.
You have a killing machine.
Right.
Possibly. Like
Right.
you do have to be aware of what you got on your hands.
Right. Right. And they sense, I mean, dogs sense, just like, you know, when people pull up to come to do chiropractic work, those dogs know kind of where they're coming to, right?
Yes,
It's not
yes.
like they forget. Oh,
No.
they're like, oh, I'm going to Dr. Andi's. And if the energy is good, they have a good experience. If the energy is bad, they have a bad experience. And then they connect that. What, I wonder what it is. Well, I know what it is when they go into the vet's office and they're like, oh, crap.
Well, there's that. The owners are all like, oh crap, right?
Right.
You know, it depends on, I think, what's going on that day in the back, right? Did they have to put some animals down? Or is everyone stressed out from another case? Like, they pick up on all of this. And that's why going in, and who has time for this, but going in, getting on the scale, getting treats, saying hi, and leaving is huge if you have an animal that has a problem with the vet's office. I don't have any animals that have problems with the vet office because I don't have a problem with the vet office and we're doing this. So it has a lot to do with the energy at the end of that leash. And the less you buy into their, oh mom, the easier it's going to go. You're just going to go in, we're going to go in, we're going to do this. And that's also why you need to build a relationship with one veterinarian. I think that's incredibly important. You cannot control the staff, but you can control who you're seeing. And that person knows that dog, the dog's going to know that person, and you can build from there.
Yeah, it is so true. And you see this, I see this. If you have sort of a dog that has issues, we always look at the parent and say, what is happening? What are they picking up on? So like for me with raw feeding, it's not an issue, never been an issue. Therefore, I don't have dogs with an issue. Now, knock on wood, that I get a puppy and, you know, everything that we say, you know, how could that be? We get to seem to, you know, test that out in our lives. But by the way, Dr. Jasek got a German Shepherd. Did you know this?
No.
Yes. Yes, she did.
Really?
She has a Max. Max is about 11 weeks old now, but Wiley.
I would never have guessed that.
Yes.
Wow.
So Wiley passed away. And you know that her last 17-year-old Chihuahua. So we go from a Chihuahua to a German Shepherd.
She had a smaller Chihuahua before that with Wiley. And that's all I've known Dr. Jasek to have. So that's just mind blowing. But I guess now they have the space and the
chickens, and they need something larger on the 10 acres out there. Yeah. So her food bill just increased incredibly.
Yes, she's now in the league with the rest of us. I get food every 3-4 months. I'm like, oh God.
Right. So I just thought I'd put that out there. She introduced him on the cancer webinar, but yeah, he's adorable. He's adorable. He came from a ranch that they didn't vaccinate. They do all organic stuff out there. And
Fantastic.
yep, they were feeding Kibble.
Okay.
But she got him, the blend that some people complain about all the time, the turkey PMR, she feeds it all the time. She's like, I don't get it. But this dog
I
had
don't get it. But anyway,
right?
go ahead.
Sloppy poops because he'd eaten a bunch of colostrum, the calving and all that kind of stuff. 2 days, the poops were back to normal. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah. So anyway, well,
that actually goes back into our whole energy talk, right? Dr.
Right.
Jasic's like, I feed turkey PMR. What's the problem? And there's no problem. It's like,
I know. I've always said I wish I had a facility where if people were having trouble transitioning, or they said my dog won't eat, or they do this or they do that, because our kids will say that sometimes, right? They're like, well, he's not eating this. They come to my house and I'm like, I don't see it. He's eating it. What's the problem? Right. So I don't know. Check your energy. That's what we would say.
Yes.
Check your energy. What you worried about? What is happening?
Yep.
What is going on?
Yep.
Right.
Yes. What's going on in your head? They pick up on that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would say this. I mean, I'm gonna ask you this last question and I'll let you go because I know you got to see a client. Do you check the poop all that often? I mean, are you walking around with a microscope and looking at the poop all the time?
I prefer it when they poop on walks so I can see it.
Right.
But unless I've seen an issue previously, I'm not out there looking at all the poops.
That was what I was wanting to know. If you see an issue, then we can look at the poops, but don't make an issue by being a poop monitor constantly. I mean, we do look at the poops, but they're going to change, folks. They're going to change. I had a vet call me yesterday because she said that she had some people that were buying our food and the poop was still gray. And I was like, well, you're going to have to, there's a lot of questions I have to ask, which I did. And she didn't know. And so,
yeah. The poop is always changing. And I've mentioned this before, like my Doberman always tends to have chalkier, harder poops than the poodle, and they eat almost the exact same thing. So you have different biomes doing different things in different bodies too. So you have to get a sense of your particular dog, or dogs. Like I have a sense of what everybody's poop I would ideally like it to look like, and we kind of hover around there and shift and change. Oh gosh, Crosby had explosive diarrhea last week on the walk in the middle of the street.
Oh.
All over. Like it just came flying out. I'm like, dude.
Dude.
What did I'm like, okay. And so I paid attention to the next poop. It was fine. He was acting fine. He was eating fine. He was drinking fine. So we just went along with life.
It was just one time?
Yeah. No idea why. No idea. Huh. Okay. Whatever.
But you didn't run screaming to the vet and get on metronidazole?
No, I don't have time for that. That's ridiculous.
Ain't got time for that.
And it was halfway through the walk, so he was holding it, and so no, I did not.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, if it's not, like 3 days in a row,
right. If it was continuing and it was all over my house, and I did my usual at home stuff, and we were okay, but no, I'm like, dude, that was gross though.
That's gross. All right, everybody, listen, get over to animalmagiccare.com. Andi's going to have some fun stuff coming up. She's going to have a membership group coming up. She's got a new email. I love the little logo you have at the top.
I know, I have a new logo. Isn't she cute? We went like
cute.
50s bewitchy, kind of just fun. We went with pink and grays and black. It's so completely different. I'm having so much fun with it.
It suits you. It really does. It's animalmagiccare.com. You're back on your lives. All that is right there on the email list. So get over there and see Dr. Andi, and get over to rawdogfoodandcompany.com. Get your dog on a species appropriate diet. You know, the diet has got to be right. And then make sure that you find a good chiropractor. If you're here in Colorado, you can go see Dr. Andi. I don't know. She's pretty booked, but you can
try. And I got some great referrals.
There you go.
Get you hooked up.
All right, everybody. We will see you soon. Get over to rawdogfoodandcompany.com, where your pet's health is our business, and friends don't let friends feed Kibble. See you soon. Bye-bye.